Well, Razorback fans, I know that Arkansas Razorback basketball lost their first game and they're not going to go undefeated this year, but it's going to be okay. Let's talk about it on today's Locked On Razorbacks podcast.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I am your host, John Neighbors. I'm also the host of Inside Arkansas Live, which you can catch every weekday starting at noon on Inside Arkansas and InsideArkansas.com. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start your season big with FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Hope everybody had a wonderful weekend. I know it was a bye week for football, so we'll have some more to talk about, I'm sure, here in the coming days, but there's going to be some big news today for basketball. Be on the lookout for that. So we'll have to talk about that later in the week. But we will look back on the weekend of football and all the stuff that happened with it. But I wanted to start today, of course, with basketball. And the Razorback basketball team. They played Baylor over the weekend in Dallas. I happened to be down there. And they lost. They lost by a final score of 72-67. So they're not going to go undefeated. Baylor was able to do some things. Arkansas was able to do some things. There were some good. There were some bad. There were some not so great. But it was just one of those things to where it was like frustrating. It was just a frustrating game because there would be times where Arkansas looked really good in some of the runs that they went on. And there were also other times where Arkansas looked like they were completely lost, especially offensively. Sometimes the offense would look really good and get going. Other times the defense would be the ones that were letting it down. But still, Arkansas was ended up being down by 9 points at halftime. Outscored Baylor in the second half, but 72-67 was the final score. Now, just look through some of the scores and some of the box scores and some of the stats from overall. We'll start with the positive, of course, of Adu Thiero. Adu Thiero had an incredible game, and we know what type of athleticism that he is able to provide and the excitement that he was able to bring a lot with some of the players that was coming in with him, but also the fact that he's a freak athlete. He can do so many different things, and in this particular game, he did a really good job. 24 points. 24 points for Adu Thiero. Goes 10 of 15 from the field. Goes 2 of 4 from 3, 2 of 4 from the free throw line. Is able to get 6 rebounds as well as 2 assists. Only had 1 or 2 turnovers in this game, but also had 2 block shots and a steal. So really was just a stat stuffer. Got involved in every single part of the game and really made the most out of his 31 minutes. So he had a great game out of him. Boogie Fland, once again, doing Boogie Fland things. Has 17 points, goes 5 of 13 from the field, 3 of 5 from three-point land, hits all 4 of his free throws. And, that was impressive. But what the most impressive thing is not only did he have 5 rebounds, he had 7 assists. 7 assists and a steal. But with those 7 assists, goose egg turnover. 7 assists, 0 turnovers. Last time I checked, that's pretty good. So he had a good game out of him. But other than that, you had some guys that offensively just really couldn't get anything going. John Davis, Nelly Davis, had 8 points in this game, 2 of 9 from the field, 0 of 5 from three-point land. 3 rebounds as well as an assist in this game. Had only 1 turnover, but played 21 minutes. Now, I'm not trying to make excuses for anybody or anything. I think that at the end of the day, you still got to get the job done. But you can tell that Nelly Davis is still trying to with his wrist injury that he's had, you can tell he's still trying to figure out his offense. I just have a hard time believing that this is going to be a constant thing from Nelly Davis. I mean, he's proven himself at high level, major college basketball, that he can be as good as anybody. And I think we're going to start seeing that here soon. I think he's going to develop, and I think he's going to get okay, and everything's going to be fine. But definitely not the start that he has wanted. If you're Nelly Davis, you just got to keep playing through it. And I think Cal's going to continue to give him the opportunities to play through it too. He shows times where he can score and what type of ways that he can score. But the efficiency and the percentages just has not been that great here in the beginning of the season. So struggled a little bit there. DJ Wagner was also somebody that had his struggles. He did have 8 points, 4 of 10 from the field, but did go 0 for 3 from three-point land, had 4 rebounds, but also had 3 turnovers in this game with only 1 assist. Had a block and had a steal, played 38 minutes in this game. In fact, Fland played 39 and DJ Wagner played 38. So the most minutes in the game came from those particular individuals. And again, there were some things that were good defensively, but that was about it. Now, as far as your bigs go, I want to really focus in on that. Jonas Aidoo only played 9 minutes in this game. He had one shot and didn't make it. He had 0 points, had 1 rebound, had 1 turnover. That was it. Didn't really add anything into the mix. But I'm telling you right now, as much as you Razorback fans can understand and probably agree with, this is so important for him to get healthy. And it makes me wonder if there's an approach to it where they understand that it's like, is it more about getting him to get into game shape and get reps and get ready, or is it more about healing and trying to get him to heal? Because you got to have both of those things happen. And this is just my wild assumption, but I think that they're trying to do both at the same time. You sacrifice maybe a little bit of the healing process to get him fully healed in order to give him the game reps so that way he can be ready. Now, that doesn't mean he won't be healed or won't be 100%, but it may just take a little bit longer. Because the last thing you want to do, especially with some of these big games that are going to be coming up here in the late part of the non-conference, but especially once SEC play starts up, it would be in a weird and maybe a very difficult way to have Jonas Aidoo out there where he hasn't played at all and just throw him into the fire. But at the same time, though, you can tell not having him is such a huge impact right now. Because as much as I think that Trevin Brazile as well as Big Z can be able to provide a lot of different things, they don't have physicality. And it really showed its ugly face in this game. I'm not hating on those guys as far as I saying that they played terrible. Big Z definitely did struggle. He only had 2 points, goes 0 of 3 from the field, 5 rebounds, and also had a turnover, a block shot, and a steal. But Trevin Brazile had 4 points in this game. They just don't have the physicality defensively. And there's so many times where Baylor would just drop it inside and they would get post up and they would just move those guys so easily. That's why Jonas Aidoo is so crucial to getting back into this game and getting back to be that physical presence. So you got to continue to work on that, and you got to continue to get there. I like what Billy Richmond was able to provide just in the 12 minutes he played. I thought he did some really good things. Carter Knox went 0 of 3 from the field. Did have 4 rebounds in this game, did play 10 minutes, so get a little bit of a run there. So, yeah, I mean, that was pretty much the team that played. And we're going to talk about this, but, Arkansas, it's not like they got embarrassed out there on the court. And I'm not trying to make excuses because you want to win the game. I'm not trying to take anything away from it. But this isn't one of those losses that everyone's just got to be like, oh my gosh, this team sucks. This is not looking good. This is bad. Yes, there are things that can be concerning, but we're 2 games into the season. And to me, the biggest concerns right now are 2 simple things, not simply fixed, but simple things. 1, lacking the health of Jonas Aidoo inside and having that physical presence. And 2, not shooting the 3 very well. Arkansas didn't hit their first 3 until their 10th attempt in this game. That's bad. They go 5 of 20 from the field, from 3-point land. Now, you can look at it a certain way where, so they start off 1 for 10. Well, if you do the math, that means they finished 4 for 10 in the after that, which is a good percentage. So it did increase. It did get better. But that's a concern right now. It's just overall a concern. I think Arkansas did a pretty good job as far as assists go. They had 13 assists, 11 turnovers, still too many, but still had more assists than turnovers. It was an increase from the previous game. They did miss a lot of layups, 5 of 13 on layups. That's not something you want to see. So, of course, and I don't look at that as some sort of like, is that going to be a problem moving forward? Their team, they're going to bounce back from that. It's going to be fine. But I'm not sweating it. I'm not freaking out about it. I'm not going from one belief in this team to all of a sudden I have no belief. Because if you remember, which I know all of you listened to my preseason predictions for Arkansas basketball, I had Arkansas losing this game. I did. Not saying it's fine to lose, but you got to look at the big picture. Could this team struggle? Could this team continue to have problems from 3-point shooting? Could they continue to have problems with physical presence inside? Yes, absolutely they could. But is it guaranteed? No. I'm sorry. I have a hard time believing that Nelly Davis, who was one of the best players in the country last year, averaging 20 points a game at FAU, part of a Final Four team, just forgot how to shoot the ball. He's going to improve. He's going to get better. I think the more he gets healthier, the more he gets comfortable, it's going to happen. Boogie Flan's incredible. He's got so much prowess to him. Adu Thierry had a great game. And, there's good things about this team. And you see stretches of it where this is how it's going to be, folks. This is how it's going to be this season. You're going to see times where Arkansas looks like a Final Four team, whether it's in stretches or even in games. They're going to look dominant. They're going to look good. They're going to look fire. And then there's going to be other times they don't. But it's a matter of, can you continue to improve and continue to get better, continue to be a cohesive unit and get healthy and get right and figure out your comfort level and just move forward that way. I think they can. I think they will. But doesn't mean it's not going to come with growing pains. Hopefully we see less of those moving forward, because Arkansas's got a few winnable games in front of them on the schedule before their big one against Illinois on Thanksgiving. So we'll talk a little bit about Coach Cal and something that's become very apparent to me with the national media. We'll discuss that on the other side of the break. So stay with us here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. All right, all you Razorback fans, get ready to tackle the NFL as well as college football action with FanDuel's greatest app, the FanDuel app, America's #1 sports book. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on in the NFL, all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you start your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, so moving on into the next segment of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. This is something I'm going to talk about that I feel pretty passionately about, and it's been really frustrating about just the Cal experience so far. I thought that all of the issues or all of the concerns or all of the people that would want Arkansas or want Cal to lose or to not succeed or to fail, whatever it is, I thought that was mainly just going to be coming from Kentucky fans, which it has and which it will. I mean, it's just who it is. But over the weekend and over the past week or so, since the season started, it is kind of crazy how I've seen some national college basketball media people, experts, analysts, whatever you want to call them, almost feel like a vendetta against Coach Cal in Arkansas. And what I mean by that is there is nothing that's really been said about positively about Arkansas or about Cal, and honestly not even given benefit of the doubt. When Arkansas beat Lipscomb, we talked about it here on this podcast, only beat them by mere 16 points. Was it the prettiest game? No. Did it have its issues? Yes. Did Arkansas look perfect? No. But it was pretty incredible to see the reaction coming from it from so many people. It was like, oh man, that was just barely won. Looked terrible. Blah, blah, blah. And I remember at the time I was kind of like, okay, maybe people are just trying to get clicks, trying to get people to watch them and everything. But then after the reaction I saw when Arkansas lost to Baylor, again, a top 10 team, top 10 caliber team, in a neutral site game, second game of the season, they lost by 5 points. Okay? Lost by 5. The amount of people in the national college basketball realm and media, people I respect, or at least did, immediately jumped to the equation of what's going on at Arkansas? What's the problem here? This is terrible. They look disgusting. There's nothing redeemable about them. They don't have a point guard. They can't shoot the three. I don't know, the Cal experience, it looks like it's about over. This is terrible. And I feel like I'm taking crazy pills in all of this. Because on one hand, I understand that sometimes, you want to have takes, you want to have opinions, and they're strong. But on the other hand, I'm like, this is a little bit over the top and a little ridiculous. The main reason I also say that is because, a great example of it, going back to the Lipscomb game, Arkansas barely won, quote unquote, by 16 points, and you saw the response. People were hating on it and saying it wasn't good. But those same people, when Alabama, who is one of the best teams in the country right now, grinds out a game against Arkansas State, very close, barely escape. And there was even a time where Arkansas State tied it late in the game with like 3 minutes to go. What's the response to that? Man, Alabama that's a gritty team over there. Gritty team. Grittiness is really what got them through and got them the dub. That's just a gritty team. So what's the difference here? On one side, the team that they barely beat was Arkansas State, but that's grittiness. It's grinding out a win. But when Arkansas does it against Lipscomb, it's like, what's the problem? This is awful. Everybody's terrible over there. Cal doesn't have it anymore. It's going to be like that for the entire season, folks. Again, I thought it was just going to be Kentucky, but it's going to be national media. And I have a theory as to why. It's just a theory. And I want you guys to be prepared for this, Razorback fans. You're public enemy number one in basketball land. Whether you like to admit it or not, whether you want to be or not, it's true. I say embrace it. Hate everybody. But my theory behind this is a simple one. When you think about the same media that was the darlings for John Calipari and was carrying water for him and always talked about how great he was and really was hyping him up and never really had any major horrible thing, like never questioned him or anything like that. But suddenly they do. What changed? Well, changing of scenery. He went to Arkansas. But him going to Arkansas would not warrant alone the type of criticism that he's received so early part of the season. So it has to be something deeper, and it has to be something a little bit more sinister. Well, my theory is, thinking about media, me being in that realm and in that area, maybe not in the national landscape, but at least having an idea of how it works. If you go back to the time when Calipari was being reported as becoming the next head coach of Arkansas, who reported that? Who got the scoop? It wasn't John Rothstein. It wasn't Jeff Goodman. It wasn't Joe Tipton. It wasn't, it wasn't Fanta. It wasn't Norlander. It wasn't any of those national big-time college basketball guys. It was Wes Moore, locally here in Arkansas, of Fox 16 and 103.7 The Buzz in Little Rock. That's who reported it. So why does that matter, you ask? Think about the embarrassment that must have been and the humiliation and the frustrations where, honestly, the biggest college basketball story when it comes to coaches, not only last year, but maybe in the last decade, maybe in the past 15 years, the biggest college basketball story, Calipari leaving Kentucky for Arkansas, shocked the world, got us at the report and scoop from a local Arkansas media member, not any of the national guys. And to me, in my theory, those national guys resent John Calipari for that tremendously, because they probably had what they thought a good relationship with him, thought that that he would let them know about certain things. And even if what John Calipari said originally was true, that he wanted to wait until after the Final Four or whatever before it came out, even if that's the case, he could have told that to the national media. It said, hey, don't say anything. And they wouldn't have said anything until it was time. But they didn't even get that. They were as shocked as me and you that Calipari went to Arkansas. And when you're considered to be the biggest college basketball reporters and the know and analysis and experts and having all these sources and report, all of that crap, and you get scooped in the biggest story of all college basketball by a local media member of Arkansas, they don't take too kindly to that. And I believe they still hold resentment for him, and they will continue to hold resentment for Calipari for not letting them be the ones that knew about it first. That's my theory, because it's the only one I can make sense out of as to why the approach is so anti-Cal from the national media. Now, should you care as a Razorback fan? Absolutely not. I have said plenty of times before, as you know. I don't give a rip what the national media thinks about how great of a job someone's doing or how bad of a job someone's doing here in Arkansas, because most of those people have never even been here and don't know what we're capable of here in Arkansas. I don't care about what they say. I don't care what they think. I care about what people who matter think here in the state. So don't worry about it. But what I am telling you and trying to help you out and preparing you is that it's going to be a nonstop thing this season. Do not take it personally, because apparently it's their own personal vendetta that they have against Cal, just like Kentucky fans, and it's never going to stop. Embrace it, Hog fans. Become the enemy. Be the one that everyone hates. Fine. As long as the win comes with it, who cares? Who cares? Just as long as you win. We'll look around the SEC here in just a second and football side of things, so stay with us here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. All right, all you Razorback fans out there, got to tell you about, of course, the Gametime app. A lot of you are going to be making the trip to the Arkansas-Texas game this weekend. Tickets are out there, but you want the best deal, right? When you get the best seats and the most friendly app when it comes to users, well, look no further than Gametime. Gametime app gives you the all-in pricing feature, which toggles with all the money up front and how much those tickets are going to cost. That way you have no surprise fees at checkout. They also give you the panoramic view of your seat in the app before you buy, so you get a chance to see it all in person and not to see what it could look like or what you're guessing it. No, you actually get to see a picture, a panoramic view of what it looks like. And they also have the lowest price guarantee. And if you find it cheaper anywhere else, Gametime will credit you with 110% of the difference. It's that simple. They also have the Gametime ticket coverage, which your purchase is covered by the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime picks. Download the Gametime app and create an account and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? It's game time. All right, so final segment here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. College football, Arkansas wasn't a part of it, thank goodness, over the weekend. Can't lose against the bye week, so we'll see how it goes this week. We'll have a lot of stuff coming from Sam Pittman and maybe leading up into the game against Texas. But what a wild one it was in the SEC. And when I say wild, not really. But there still were some surprises. The big one, of course, was the fact that Ole Miss spanked Georgia. I could not believe that. 28-10, Ole Miss beats Georgia. Team that Arkansas faced just a week ago, roughly, and got their taints handed to them. It was a pretty electric atmosphere there in Oxford, which is good because they don't really have those very often. But 28-10, Ole Miss gets the win, which drops Georgia to 7-2, 5-2 in the SEC, and now Ole Miss is 8-2, 4-2 in the SEC. Ole Miss beating Georgia has really put a damper into how people think about the SEC, about college football, and about things, where they're going and who the best teams are, and it's just crazy. I was shocked by that, and honestly thought that the way that the game started for Ole Miss by Jackson Dart throwing a pick, which led to Georgia go straight down the field for a touchdown, I was like, oh boy, here we go. But Ole Miss fought back and took care of business and won 28-10. So big win for them, and they're in the driver's seat as far as going to the college football playoff. In fact, they have to go to the college football playoff. They got Florida and Mississippi State left. That's it. Two terrible teams. They better. If they do not go 10-2, people need to be fired over there. They should be close to undefeated anyways. So there was that. Texas, team that Arkansas is playing here very soon, as in this week, absolutely destroyed Florida. Not even close. It was 35-0 at halftime. 49-17 was the final score. So that should make you feel real good. Sweet. Tennessee beat Mississippi State. Who cares? Then you have Alabama and LSU. I'll admit, I thought LSU would give them a game and maybe even win, but Alabama beat the brakes off of LSU, 42-13. Jalen Milroe had 4 rushing touchdowns, rushed for 185 yards on 12 carries. They had no answer for him, and Roll Tide all the way into Tuscaloosa or into Baton Rouge and shut out the lights there at a night game in Death Valley. So just absolute destruction there by Alabama. So they're right back into the mix too as far as a playoff spot. South Carolina beat Vanderbilt. South Carolina, I guess, is coming along. Vanderbilt's still 6-4, 3-3 in SEC. South Carolina 6-3, 4-3 in the SEC. So they still got some good things going. In fact, South Carolina, the only games they have left is Missouri at home, which they honestly should win. They play at Clemson at the end of the year in Wofford. But the thing is that if they beat Missouri, they're 5-3 in conference play. When it's 7-3 overall, there's a chance that they could go 9-3. In fact, they probably should, to be honest. So they've really bounced back after what looked to be a slow start. And then Missouri gets lucky once again. They beat Oklahoma because there was a scoop and score by Oklahoma to take the lead when it was tied. And then Missouri goes right down the field and scores a touchdown to tie it again. And then Oklahoma fumbles and they scoop and score. And Missouri wins in the final second. So it was just a wild ending to the game. But now Missouri is sitting at 7-2, 3-2 in the SEC. Incredible. They play, again, South Carolina. I think South Carolina wins that one. But then they have Mississippi State and then Arkansas. So, again, the easiest schedule. They even get by with a lucky win. And I don't see any way that they get into the playoff, nor should they. Even if they win out, they shouldn't be in there as a 10-2 team. But that's where it stands right now. So the standings right now, speaking of, you got still 3 teams with only 1 loss in the SEC. You got Tennessee at 5-1, A&M at 5-1, and Texas at 4-1. Texas A&M and Texas are going to play each other, so one of those teams is going to have at least 2 losses by the time it is all said and done. Tennessee has a tough game against Georgia coming up on the road this weekend. So if they take care of business in that one, if they find a way to beat Georgia, they'll have UTEP and Vanderbilt left. And I think, in my opinion, no, it's not even think, I'll know, Tennessee is going to win the SEC. I guess between them and Texas, if Texas won out. But I don't know how that would work. So I guess we'll have a tiebreaker a little bit. But either way, they're really in good shape. So you got 3 teams at the top with 1 loss. You got Georgia, Ole Miss, Alabama, Missouri, LSU, all with 2 losses in the SEC. And then you have South Carolina, Vanderbilt, Arkansas with 3 wins or 3 losses in the SEC. And then Florida, and the rest doesn't matter. So still some craziness, still some movement just in the final 3 weeks of the season that could really transpire and could really happen. But it's going to be a lot of fun to see how it all plays out. And, man, it would be nice if Arkansas could be relevant in any of that. But for some reason, I have my doubts. Have a bad feeling about this week, folks. This weekend against Texas, I got a bad feeling. But we'll save that for when the week goes on and we get closer to game time. But either way, appreciate all of you listening in and watching in to the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or on Google Play. You can also get after me on Twitter at John Neighbors Show for any questions, comments, concerns that you may have, and we'll keep it going from there. Same podcast time, same podcast channel tomorrow afternoon. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you then.